that was an event that definitely, I was like, wow. And what I realized was I felt myself in that guy's boots. You know, I'd been there. I'd been on the side of a desert mountain, 100+ degree heat, full gear, sweating, chaos happening, worried about bringing my guys home alive. And I realized if he'd had the same tools I'd had in Afghanistan, his team probably would have been alive. So that led to me starting Bridger Aerospace. And we ended up, you know, several other companies spun out of that as well along the way. But the point was to bring that airborne intelligence capability that supported ground guys to industry and to public safety tasks other than the military.
Why'd you come to Montana though?
Yeah, so you know we'd come here to train before we go to Afghanistan. So our SEAL teams would come out here. Actually, Butte was our home base. A guy named Rod Allen out there in Butte has a group called the Peak. And he's a former Air Force special ops guy. So he would host high altitude training events for teams getting ready to go to Afghanistan. So, you know, everything from high altitude parachuting to high altitude, high angle shooting. You know, most shooting ranges are level. The reality is in Afghanistan, you're never shooting level. You're always shooting down, and most of the time you're shooting up. You know, and
because people are shooting down.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the peaks over there are 23,000 feet high. You know, these aren't 8,000-foot peaks. I mean, you're fighting in the foothills of the Himalayas. The Hindu Kush is the most rugged, basically, terrain in the world. So you're not just shooting up a few hundred feet. You're shooting up. So, you know, horseback riding, packing in, high-angle rope rescue, high-altitude medicine. Basically, we go out there, and he'd assemble these fantastic training modules for us, and we bring SEALs out here and train. So during a couple of those trips, Carmen had come out and visited, and we kind of decided, hey, this is a great spot. I think if we ever get out of the military, if that ever, you know, maybe we'll come here and raise our family. You know, Lord works in mysterious ways. You know, things happened. I got hurt. You know, timing lined up, so we decided to start our company here. So me and my co-founder, who was also a military officer, started our company, and you know, we hoped maybe one day we'd have like 8 or 10 employees, but had no idea. You know, we scaled through Ascent Vision Technology, was spun out of Bridger, which is another great success story, and a couple of other companies. You know, about 500 jobs worldwide we created. We had bases in Australia and Spain and Italy and elsewhere. So we kind of created an international company, and all based right here. So, yeah.
But maybe I misunderstood it.
Yep.
As I've become familiar with you through the race, the Senate race. But you guys have a heavy focus on wildfire, though, right?
Totally, yeah. No, so Bridger Aerospace, basically, you know, 70% of that company is all aerial wildland firefighting.
I see.
You know,
Okay,
we got a base in Spain.
I wasn't aware.
Here.
I wasn't aware of the other applications. Yeah.
Yeah. So that sensor technology I'd mentioned, we spun into a separate product-based company called Ascent Vision. So basically, Bridger Aerospace was our aerial firefighting arm, and basically the mission there was to bring military-style close air support from our lessons from the war, cut paste that. Bring those lessons to wildland fire. And as we've seen in recent months, and as most people live out west see, like these fires are nasty, and like we have not been winning the battle. You know, like we've just lost. You know, America's biggest city just got burned over by this. You know, Lahaina a couple years ago. You know, and almost every western state can point to just a massive disaster that's happened. And it's like, you know, we can do better than we're doing.
How would you? Oh, sorry. You know, go ahead.
How would Bridger Aerospace get involved with a specific fire? Like, would you get a call from the government and they were like, hey, we need you guys, or how?
Yeah. So, I mean, all of aircraft, not all, 99% of aircraft flying over wildfires in America come from a private company. So basically the government decided in the 1960s, we're not going to operate firefighting planes. For a while, the government did it themselves, actually wrote a book about this called Mudslingers, about the history of aerial firefighting. And all the profits go to benefit fallen wildland firefighters, but it was more of a history.
You wrote the book?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it was something I was interested in because as I was learning about aerial firefighting, because I got into the industry really by accident, knew nothing about it. And then as I'm sitting at fire bases as a pilot, because I flew all our planes, I'd be sitting at the fire base. It's like being a fireman, except your fire engine flies instead of drives. So you're hanging out the fire base, shooting the shit, talking to folks all day. And you start talking to some of these old timers, and they're telling you old stories from the 60s and 70s. And you start to figure out, man, the history of this is amazing. I mean, flying in, flying through smoke, dropping water on wildfires. Like a lot of these guys were like World War II heroes, Vietnam. I mean, they'd already flown the toughest stuff in the world in the toughest conditions, and they came and basically needed that adrenaline fix still.
Yeah.
And now they start flying wildfire. And so you start to see the history of that. But basically, almost every single aircraft that flies a wildfire is contract owned and or operated. Because the government pretty much decided in the 60s, you know what? we're not going to own and operate our own aircraft. It's too expensive. It's too technically complex for us to just manage the way our budget cycle works. We're going to just hire contractors to fight fire from the air. We'll do it on the ground.
So fire breaks out and you guys are just waiting for the phone to ring.
Basically, so we'll get pre-staged around, and again, we could talk for hours on this. I actually did the Sean Ryan podcast, a couple months ago, and basically spent 3 hours talking just about wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we talked about how that all works, and again, I could talk for hours about it. But basically, we are pre-positioned as air crews, and basically they will call us up and tell us what fire to go to. Basically, hey, go to this fire today. And sometimes mid-air you get sent to a different fire. So you could take off. I've taken off sometimes, late morning, and I'll fight 3 or 4 different fires. Go water bomb one, boom, shift to this one, shift to that one, and you'll fight multiple fires on the same tank of fuel in the air, and then come back and recharge.